At 3 in the morning, in the pitch-black silence of their living room, a sound broke the stillness. It was a rhythmic, unnerving noise that scraped against the dark. Tap. 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 The sound of a heavy kitchen knife, its blunt edge striking the corner of the dining table. With every clash of steel and wood, the metallic scent of fear seemed to bloom in the air. A man, Michael, was bound to a chair. Black cable ties bit deeply into his wrists, so tight his fingertips had turned a deathly shade of purple. As he gasped for air, his wife's voice coiled around his ear, sticky and venomous. "Tell me the truth, Michael," she whispered. "That woman's perfume yesterday, it wasn't a smell. I heard it. It sounded like cheap, mocking laughter." Her eyes were unfocused, yet fixated on something only she could see. Michael tried to speak, to plead, but only a dry rasp escaped his throat. What could possibly have brought this husband and wife to the edge of such a terrifying abyss? Our story begins 3 months before this night of reckoning. On the surface, Michael's commute home was just like any other. But the moment he heard the electronic chirp of the front door unlocking, his heart began to race with a familiar dread. As the door swung open, he wasn't met with a kiss, but with the cold, assessing eyes of his wife, Sarah. Instead of "How was your day, honey?" she began her ritual. She would lean in, her nose twitching, and inhale deeply from the collar of his shirt, the cuffs of his sleeves, the space between the buttons. It was a sacred, terrifying ceremony of suspicion. "This isn't fabric softener," she'd mutter. "And it's not the subway, it's a mix. Something else is on you." Michael, sighing with a weary resignation he knew all too well, dropped his briefcase. But Sarah's hand was already darting towards his coat pocket, closing in on his cell phone. Sarah's obsession had long ago spiraled past simple jealousy. To her, her husband's phone was Pandora's box, and the quiet friction of his thumb tracing the unlock pattern was a confession of guilt. His life outside the home was no sanctuary. During important work meetings, she would call dozens of times. "Is there a woman in the conference room with you? Let me hear her voice." His colleagues would stare in horror as Sarah's shrill accusations echoed from the speakerphone, and soon, they began to avoid him altogether. Michael would hide in the corner of the break room, whispering into the phone, "Please, Sarah. I'm at work. You're destroying my career." But his pleas were twisted by the funhouse mirror of her paranoia. To her, his desperation was just another trick, another lie to protect the other woman while making her look insane. Eventually, the inevitable happened. Michael was fired. His professional life, his social standing, all of it collapsed, leaving him a prisoner in his own home. The air in their apartment grew heavy and stale. Shards of a plate she had thrown in a rage days ago were still embedded deep in the living room carpet. All he could do was sit on the sofa, staring blankly at the TV. But even that wasn't allowed. Sarah watched him even as he slept. The moment his eyelids began to flutter in REM sleep, she would shake him violently awake. "Your eyes just moved. Who were you meeting in your dreams?" "It was her, wasn't it? You were laughing with her." Her eyes were bloodshot, haunted by the demons of her own childhood, a trauma born from her own father's infidelity that had now consumed her completely. Michael grew silent, a hollowed-out shell enduring Sarah's daily tirades. But behind his vacant eyes, a cold and meticulous plan was taking shape. He realized he couldn't cure her paranoia. So, he decided to use it. One afternoon, Sarah began her routine search of Michael's car in the apartment parking garage. She lifted the floor mat in the trunk, her fingers probing the deep recess of the spare tire well. That's when she felt it. A cold, metallic object. It was an old, untraceable burner phone, powered off. Her hands began to tremble. "I knew it, you thought I wouldn't find it?" With a shaking thumb, she pressed the power button. As the phone chimed to life, the screen lit up, revealing nothing. No call logs, no text messages. There was only a single audio file in a folder labeled recordings. Sarah swallowed hard, her heart pounding against her ribs, and pressed play. After a brief crackle of static, she heard a voice that was painfully familiar. It was Michael. "I love you, baby. Just wait a little longer. I'll take care of her. I'll have her committed if I have to." In that instant, something inside Sarah's mind snapped. It was the sound of reason breaking, the sound of madness being unleashed. Her deepest, darkest suspicions had just been confirmed as fact. And now, she was ready to do anything to protect herself. That night, when Michael walked through the front door, he was met with a sharp, blinding blow to the back of his head. When he came to, he was tied to a chair in the bedroom. And that is how our story began, with the 3 a.m. interrogation. Sarah circled him, brandishing the kitchen knife she'd retrieved. "Tell me her name. Where does she live? Who is the woman on that phone?" she screamed. She gave him no water, only relentless, torturous questions. Michael's lips were cracked and dry, his vision blurring from dehydration. But strangely, his eyes held no terror. Behind his glasses, his gaze was disturbingly calm, as if he were merely an observer, watching the final act of a play he had written himself. The truth was, the burner phone was a trap, intentionally placed for Sarah to find. The voice on the recording wasn't speaking to a lover. It was Michael, alone in his car, rehearsing his lines. For 3 long months, he hadn't been a victim, he had been a puppeteer. He devised a cruel psychological play to transform his wife into the perfect villain, a mentally unstable attacker, so he could become the perfect victim. He poured gasoline on the fires of her suspicion, deliberately provoking her to attack him. It was all a monstrous performance designed to give him complete victory in their divorce, to win him the house, the money, and the sympathy of the world. When Sarah, momentarily overwhelmed, went to the kitchen for a glass of water, Michael twisted his bound hands. He activated a tiny audio recorder he had hidden in his back pocket. A small red light blinked on. The stage was set. As Sarah returned with the knife, Michael finally spoke, his voice raspy but clear. "Sarah, please stop. There is no other woman, you invented her." For Sarah, those words were the ultimate betrayal. Denying her pain was worse than any affair. With a guttural scream, she lunged. The blade slashed across Michael's shoulder, and a spray of crimson bloomed across his white shirt. At that exact moment, flashing red and blue lights flooded the room, tearing through the windows. The shriek of sirens ripped through the night. A silent emergency text, pre-scheduled by Michael hours earlier, had been sent to the police. The front door burst open, and the officers stormed in to find a scene straight from a horror movie, a bleeding husband tied to a chair, and his wild-eyed wife holding a bloody knife. Sarah was arrested on the spot. As they dragged her away, she screamed, pointing at Michael. "He's smiling. Look at him. He's bleeding and he's smiling." But to the police, all they saw was a poor, terrified man, a victim in his own home. The case became a local sensation, and it ended just as Michael had planned. Sarah was diagnosed with severe paranoid schizophrenia and committed to a psychiatric hospital. Michael was hailed as a courageous survivor of domestic abuse. The divorce was swift. He got everything. Months later, Michael stood in the silent, empty house he had won. He pulled a can of beer from the fridge. The crisp hiss of the can opening echoed in the stillness. He sank deep into the sofa and took a long drink. No more watchful eyes. No more paranoid questions. He was finally, completely free. A wave of perfect relief washed over him. But then, a strange thing happened. The TV was off, the house was silent, yet he heard a sound. A faint, high-pitched noise. At first, he thought it was just ringing in his ears. But it grew clearer, more distinct. It was the sound of a woman giggling. The very same sound Sarah had insisted she could hear, the sound of the lover he swore didn't exist. Michael shot up, his blood running cold, and scanned the empty room. There was no one there. But the giggling continued, seeming to come from the ceiling, from inside the walls, from beneath the very carpet he stood on. A cold sweat trickled down his spine. With trembling hands, Michael covered his ears. Where was that sound coming from? Was it possible that the elaborate lie he constructed to drive Sarah mad had, in turn, created a very real demon inside his own mind? Or, was there another possibility? Was the confession on that burner phone really just an act? Had there been a real other woman all along, a secret so deep that even he had tried to forget her? Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. The hell that Sarah had been trapped in was now his. And he was utterly, terrifyingly alone in it. As the night wears on, the laughter grows louder. Michael stares at his own phone, lying dark on the coffee table. His reflection in the blank screen seems twisted, unfamiliar. Just as Sarah once had, he begins to whisper to the empty air, desperate for an answer. Who's there? Is somebody there? But only the ghostly laughter echoes back. The nightmare isn't over. It has simply found a new host. It is 3 o'clock in the morning, and the gates of hell are opening once more. We often say that hell is other people, but perhaps the deepest, most inescapable hell is the one we build inside our own minds. A castle built on lies will inevitably be haunted by ghosts of its own making. What was the cold, hard truth of the 3 a.m. interrogation? Was the laughter that filled the empty house a phantom born of guilt? Or was it the first symptom of a madness that had become contagious? We'll leave that for you to decide. Thank you for joining us in the theater of true mystery. We hope that tonight, your dreams are peaceful and free of all suspicion.